Welcome back to another edition of the Big Ten Morning Minutes. I'm your host, Michael Chen. It is Wednesday, February 20th, 2019. Unfortunately, I am still a little bit under the weather, but still going to bring you as much information as I can this hump day. Not much going on the hardwood. Actually, nothing really to report from yesterday, but we'll get right away into it on the gridiron. Biggest news of the day yesterday for me was the fact that Michigan got a grad transfer and on the defensive line, and it was a pretty big one yesterday in Mike Dana. Dana previously played at Central Michigan, and with the losses of Chase Winovich, obviously to graduation, and then Rashawn Gary moving on to the NFL early, Jim Harbaugh really needed to solidify the depth going on for his defensive line, and he did it yesterday. Dana, he was a Pro Football Focus All-American this past year, one of very few MAC players to ever get that designation. So I think that this is a really big pickup for Michigan and Jim Harbaugh. He's going to immediately help the defensive line. Obviously, losing players like Winovich and Gary isn't going to help you at all, but a player like Dana is going to come in, will start immediately, and definitely help the Wolverines on the defensive side of the ball. Moving on to a more important commitment, as quarterbacks are obviously the most important guy on the field, and Penn State got one in 2020 quarterback commit Micah Bowens. He's from high school powerhouse Bishop Gorman. And if you all remember Gorman, Gorman's the high school that Tate Martell went to. Been publicized, highly publicized as one of the best high schools you can go to as a football player in the country. Probably a top 10 program, high school nationally. They're always putting out good players, always putting out very good talent. Very similar to, I would say, like a junior college type atmosphere, training, getting them ready for it. So Bowens obviously is going to come in, and he's going to look to potentially be a Trace McSorley type player. He did struggle last year, however, in his three biggest games. TD to interception ratio was not very good. They do play, Gorman plays a national schedule. They travel all over the place, so getting a player of his caliber from a Bishop Gorman, that's a good coup, because typically those players, they are more ready come the beginning of the season, beginning of their careers, when they step on college campuses. Now Bowens, he actually might not end up on the offensive side of the ball for a few years, due to the fact that they had a quarterback in Dorian Thompson, who ended up going to UCLA in front of him. Bowens had to wait his time to play quarterback, and although they won a state championship last year, there's still a lot more expected out of Bowens, but there's a possibility that he could be moved to the defensive side of the ball as well if quarterback doesn't work out. So although Bowens was recruited as a quarterback, in my eyes, he's a little bit more of an athlete. Kind of get him on campus, see what he can do. I'd say first put him in the quarterback room, see if he can assimilate, do well. If not, you still have the opportunity to play him at a position that is a high need as well in defensive back. So Bowens, a nice little pickup for James Franklin and the Nittany Lions. They are now sitting 16th overall in the 24/7 team rankings. A couple preferred walk-ons were picked up offensively and defensively. We'll start with the Illini. They picked up a linebacker in Mark DiIorio, who chose the Illini over D2 Truman State. Obviously not a big-time pickup, but good to get some depth there, as the Illini had a smaller than normal class this past season. So getting a couple preferred walk-ons like they have recently will help boost up the numbers for this class and potentially add some depth. And then the other preferred walk-on was added by Rutgers. They got offensive lineman Jason Lavigna. Good size for Lavigna at 6'4", 270 pounds. Also looking at West Virginia as a preferred walk-on as well. So, I like it when These preferred walk-ons have other offers from bigger-time D1 schools, so I like the addition of Lavigna for the Scarlet Knights and Chris Ash. Might not play right away. There's a reason why these guys were preferred walk-ons as opposed to scholarship guys, but nevertheless, still good to get some depth on the offensive line because that's obviously a position where you could see a lot of injuries in, and Lavigna definitely has the size to play in the Big Ten. And then one more note, although he hasn't made his decision, Rutgers offensive lineman transfer Jonah Jackson previously has visited Ohio State and Oklahoma. He's going to make a visit to his final top 3 team in Texas this upcoming weekend. So Jackson most likely will make a decision shortly. Everyone's kind of waiting on Jackson because he's an instant impact type guy. Most likely will be a starter wherever he goes. And he's looking at some very highly rated schools in the Buckeyes, the Sooners, and the Longhorns. So remains to be seen where he'll end up. But I do think that wherever Jackson goes, he's going to start from day one and then off to the NFL to pursue his dream of playing at the highest level. So that's going to do it this morning for the Big Ten Morning Minutes. I've been your host, Michael Chen. I appreciate you hanging in there with me while I wheeze through this one. I appreciate it, and have a great day, Big Ten fans.